Welcome back to our show here on, what do they call it? Election Tuesday, right, David?
This is not Super Tuesday, is it? But some people are saying this is the most important election that we've had in our lifetime.
Yeah, I think they say that every election on the news because what it does is it gets more people watching the news.
To watch the news, yeah.
I actually heard that the polls are completely rigged to always make it seem closer than it is. Because because the closer it is,
the more people watch.
Tune in and you want to know and you want to know. And if it was a blowout one way or the other, people quit turning into the news to find out who's winning.
Well, folks, today we're going to talk about things that are right on the edge, so you better stay tuned here on Brashenomics.
That's right. Well, David, thanks again for joining us. You've earned the Seattle Magazine's 5-star Best in Client Satisfaction Award every year it's been offered. So, you've helped your clients kind of navigate through these election cycles consistently. What's the biggest difference that goes through people's heads when you start looking at buying real estate or selling real estate during these times of the election?
Well, I think that's a great question. Before we get into that, I just bringing up what the White House is worth. I really hope they're paying their $2,840,000 of property taxes a year.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I wonder how the appraiser got comps.
Yeah. Well, Gates maybe.
Yeah.
So
Taj Mahal, different areas.
Consumer confidence, like you talked about, is, I think, really the thing that's really tied into this election, because I think a lot of people believe that if the election goes one way, that consumer confidence is going to falter, and if it goes another way, then consumer confidence may not falter. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I mean, Americans are pretty resilient, and but there's been a lot of fear. There's been a lot of fear about our economy, about debt. I think Seattle has been somewhat insulated from all that. We've had a reasonably strong economy that's gone on the last several years. Our economy our unemployment rate is at the national average, so that's interesting. Home prices, mortgage rates, all these things have huge effect, but they're not making much of an impact recently. I made a comment on my Facebook the other day that you commented on, is that
it must not have been political.
No, it wasn't. It was actually about real estate, and that the so-called experts are predicting that the next 2 years of real estate, we are going to see some really great appreciation. Now, I don't know how we can predict that, but that being said, if that's the case, and the fact that mortgage rates are will they ever be this low again, you think, in your lifetime?
Well, I suppose it depends on how good the drugs come to keep me alive.
Keep you alive. Well, but I hope we don't go into another economic downturn that would cause interest rates to just go down like they are.
Cyclical. There's, they typically go up and down, and rates are cyclical. Right now, where they are, it's tough to foresee that. They've never been this low.
No.
And I don't know that housing is ever going to need so much government help to come out of essentially a housing depression, which is where we ended up. So, you would have to take another housing bubble and burst where everybody had these, negative equity, and the confidence, as you mentioned, would be totally lost on real estate. And that's why essentially the government funds it, for in a way.
So
no, I don't think it'll be this low without a major
catastrophe. And I think if that catastrophe hits, we're not going to have value in anything. So, but with all of that, we really don't see the growth in real estate that I expected to see, that most of us expected to see. And I think that really comes back to consumer confidence, that people are still afraid of what might happen. The downturn that started here at the very end of 2007, really 2008, has had a major impact on people's psyche.
Isn't it amazing to think that was 5 years ago?
I know. But you know what? I think I talked about it last time. If you look at the total number of sales in various areas, 2008, which was when everything turned down, sales were better than they were in 2010, and 2010 was better. Sales in 2008 were better than they were in 2009. 9 was better than they were in 2010, and 2011 was the lowest sales we've had since 2008. So sales have gone down every year since the bubble hit. And again, I think that points at consumer confidence. But people, hey, Interest rates are, 3.5%? Housing prices are down 25%. It's now cheaper to buy a house than it is to rent a house. This is a great time to buy. I mean, it's a phenomenal time to buy, and I think that's backed up by some of the smart money in real estate, and oftentimes the smart money in real estate is the unemotional money in real estate, and those are investors. Nationwide, 40% of all home sales right now are by investors.
Do you think that you talked about this lower growth piece and how it hasn't grown maybe as fast as a lot of people have thought, especially based on the amount of jobs that are in Seattle, high-paying jobs? Do you think that the slower growth in prices has much to do with the lack of inventory? I mean, the fact that prices just can't quite get up because nobody wants to make a mistake as a buyer,
right?
And it's very hard to actually to show a faster trend,
right?
Because there's only I actually just heard we talked about Somerset. There's 2 houses or something for sale in Somerset out of 2,000 or 3,000. It's insane. There's people aren't putting their house on the market. Do you think that's slowing growth?
It's again that goes back to confidence. People are still afraid. They're still really worried, and maybe the election has something to do with that.
Maybe it's the fact that every ad says that nothing will ever get done if you don't vote for one person or the other. So of course everybody's afraid.
I mean, should we really get into a discussion about how we should reform our political system? That would be wonderful.
I think that's for a different station.
But or a different day, and we could spend all day on it, and probably not miss by far.
No, I would imagine.
So what? The other thing that is a little bit concerning today is that banks are holding on to a huge amount of REO inventory. And for you guys out there, REO is real estate owned, and that's what banks call properties that they have foreclosed on. They call them REO. So now they own the real estate. And there's a huge inventory of REOs that is not on the market, because the banks, number one, did not want to flood the market with these in the last 2 years, because that would have driven prices down even more. So they're really waiting for prices to maybe go back up before they bring those on. They can't dump them all at one time, but I think we're going to see more REOs coming on the market over the next 12 months. But even all that being said, low inventories and everything, and my last 2 deals, one deal in Bellevue and one deal in Seattle, 4 offers on one and 6 offers on the other. But they weren't bid up very much. They were bid up less than, 0.5% over asking price. Whereas in 2005, 2006, early 2007, people were on a $400,000 or a $500,000 house. They were going up $100,000 over asking price, and that was normal. Mm-hmm. Today, if they go up $5,000, $6,000, maybe $7,000 on a $500,000 house, that's as far as they go. So the mentality is really different.
David Bell joins us, our resident RE/MAX Hall of Famer. David, we just have a couple minutes left. You talk about what people are willing to go over asking price. I'm glad you bring that up, because it seems that on a $500,000 purchase, if you want it and you go up 5%, 6%, whatever it may be, it seems like people are so afraid to make a mistake. And sometimes they're not going, well, I could pay the 5% and get the lowest interest rates in the history of the world, right? Or whatnot, mortgage rates, and pay the extra 5%. And actually, over time, I would save money. But people are so afraid of overspending.
They're so afraid of it.
Which might not be overspending.
In some cases, it is, and in some cases, it wasn't. In this one, my last deal, the house was worth 5.25 easily, and they priced it at 5. The bank priced it at 5. So they anticipated having multiple offers on it. And pardon me, my clients, great clients, smart, really savvy about the real estate market, really, really did not want to go up very much at all over asking, just barely over asking. And so I sat down with them, and I did a little analysis. I said, for every $5,000 you go over or you spend more on this house, it's going to cost you $21.53 a month. That's how much $5,000 is worth. So they decided to go up a little bit higher, and guess what? We got it. And we were $500 higher than the next offer.
I guess that's what you have to start considering is, when you look at how inexpensive financing is it worth getting the house and avoiding Starbucks for a couple days a month?
Yeah. Yeah, $21.53 per $5,000.
David, we do have to go to break, but thanks for joining us. And it is another interesting way to look at what the confidence that you may or may not have in the real estate market, the confidence that you have in what interest rates are going to do, or the confidence that maybe you can avoid the lure of Starbucks in order to get that
That's
house
right.
you
And
want.
put your confidence in your real estate broker.
There you go. David, thanks so much for joining us. Again, David Bell, managing broker with RE/MAX Metro Eastside. When we come back, we're going to switch gears just a little bit and talk about financial fundamentals and maybe how that will change with the election. We'll be right back after this break.